Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jeep Journals. My name is Ray, and today is January 23rd. The last time I checked in with regard to my progress in terms of my journey to recovering my own health, I was weighing in at 116.6 kilos, and I had mentioned that I was going to resume some of my former diet, which was including chocolate, cheese, egg-based products, basically everything except for meat. And in so doing, and probably because I took a lot more than I needed to of all of the resources that I had available to me, including salads and all of the things that we tend to adorn our salads with, like croutons and dressings, I ended up only losing a half a kilo as of today. So today is January the 23rd, and I am weighing in at 116.1 kilos, which is a decrease of 0.5 kilos, which happens to be just over 1 pound. So no matter what, I still lost another pound. I'm still moving in the direction that I intended to move into. And what I'd like to do as this week advances, this upcoming week, is to reincorporate some of that physical activity that I told you I was going to incorporate. In the meantime, I have still gone without having meat. So when I originally took this journey in the beginning, I followed the 7-day vegan challenge for 3 weeks. And each of those first 3 weeks, I had similar results to my first week, where I lost approximately between 3 and 5 pounds per week. On average, after a certain point, I only lost about 2.5 pounds per week, but it was still in the direction that was measurable, constant, and it was still allowing me to have what would be considered normal meals when I was out in society with otherwise normal people. These practices that we happen to entertain and enjoy so frequently and so freely are something that sometimes we don't really consider as something that's detrimental, not just to ourselves, but to the overall health of everybody involved. And just as an example, last night I was talking with my best friend about a situation where it's almost as if we've removed ourselves from the era of the thought that there could be any type of slavery. And when I say that, I don't mean that as an offensive term. What I mean is that in a lot of ways, and many people can agree and also think about these things in a way where they might even begin to agree, slavery never really left. It was something that basically had always been present and prominent, especially if you watch any of our advertised mediums, like movies, and even just the general doings at even the restaurants that we might dine at, if we're fortunate enough to do that. If you're watching this on a video, and if you're not fortunate enough to do this, please understand I have not had any other perspective other than what I was brought up in this era, in this country, and I'm 45 years old, and for the first 44 years, I really only understood how to deal with fear, deal with my own fear. And my own fear had a lot to do with my family upbringing and some of the situations that I had encountered all the way up through this past year. And some of that tried to trickle into this year and sneak in under the radar through the guise of a lack of discussion, a lack of consideration. But I reclaimed my own free time by making sure that these discussions would only be held in a relevant manner. In many cases, we have what we think of as a system, a political system, that allows us to discuss all of these deep ideas in ways that are supposedly meaningful and that will accomplish something. And yet at the same time, for as many times as I've heard it said, well, once we vote in the right people into office, that's when we're going to get the progress that we want to have. For all of the times that I've heard that, I've never really heard a lot of people saying, this is my space, so I need to control my space, and I can only really be a steward of that which I'm entrusted to. And if I'm a proper steward of that, then I will have all of that health, that wealth. Health is wealth. I'll have all of that wealth that has been supposedly free for me to partake in. And in order to show this story regularly, I decided to start to capture things in a way that maybe it hadn't been done before. I've seen a lot of incorporations of talking about health and talking about wellness. What I haven't really seen is across the board examples of finding someone who has really struggled and then reincorporating them into a normal eating situation, a normal approach, a normal attitude. In many cases, a lot of people will become concerned when we talk about having less meat, having more vegetables, having only fruits and vegetables and nuts. And these types of things can cause a lot of agitation in someone who is only thinking with their egocentric side, only thinking with their stomach, and only thinking in ways where we absolutely will not give up anything, even if it meant it would benefit somebody else. So in this particular case, my mission is to show holistically how health and wealth are interwoven, and how health and wealth and wellness and conservation are really the same conversation that we can easily have with our fathers and mothers and step parents and step siblings across the board, in a way where it becomes a conversation that can be grasped, and not only grasped, but digested in a way that we can actually benefit from. Because in order for anything to change, it's not going to happen just at a voting level where once every 4 years we think we're going to elect the leader who's going to take care of all of these situations. What's going to happen is we have to elect ourselves as our own leader, and then basically become that shining light, especially during the times of darkness that we have been experiencing in terms of all of our global systems that we recognize. And I know that can sound kind of overwhelming and challenging, but again, what do we have control of right now? Do we have control of what's coming into our hands, what we're putting into our own mouths? And if we don't, then we might actually be addicted. And until we recognize addiction as something that is pervasive and as problematic, then we might not necessarily give credit to the fact that we can overcome these addictions. I've seen a lot of prepping shows and a lot of shows about people who believe that, they're manlier than another man because they can do this, that, and the other. But the manliest thing to do is to have compassion for something that's otherwise irrelevant. And the way that I say that is because if, for an example, there are any fathers out there who have, from the moment they've seen their child, whether it was on a sonogram or actually a just born child, the compassion that comes from being a parent that wants to nurture that which they created is something that sometimes can span across the board, where it's like, it shouldn't just be our own children that we want to nurture. If we want to leave everyone else malnourished and leave our own children as the only nourished entity out there, well, that can make our own children tasty morsels to those who are not nourished properly. And I'm not joking about cannibalism. I'm not joking about this topic and making light of it in a way that can't be analyzed. What I'm suggesting is that some of our thought processes are almost automated. And if we don't take a moment, take a time out to understand, then sometimes we can't even understand how details might escape our mind if we're not cognizant of what we're thinking. Like I was saying, on January 16th, I weighed 116.6. And today's January 23rd, and I weigh 116.1 kilos. And that is a weight loss of approximately just over 1 pound. And these are details that I can recall, albeit sometimes slowly, because I am in the recovery process. So as you see me regain my health, and as you see the sharpness improve, and as you see me smiling more about this content because I have more energy, and as you see me singing what it is that I'm trying to talk about in a way that captivates an audience, then I hope that you can also chime in by clicking on the comments area, adding some kind of information about your own success story, and also maybe we can share and resonate this message in a way that is impactful in a positive way to help us holistically clear out these challenges that we've been met with for far too long, overcome the addiction that we know we're capable of overcoming, and maybe we can re-bridge those conversations that need to have occurred sooner rather than later. Anyway, until next time, I wanted to let you know that's my weekly strongly update for this segment. And I'm going to continue these segments on a weekly basis just so we can see if we have accountability, if we have progress, if we've fallen off the face of the earth, if we've actually followed through, and whether or not there's anything for sale in some person's cases. Like I was talking about earlier, we have a lot of preppers who will talk about all these things and accumulating and amassing and voting eventually for something that might change. We know that it's beyond that. We know it in our minds. We can feel it. And the reason I know we can feel it is because anytime I have this conversation and it's not under the veil of some kind of an advertised syndicate. In other words, if I have this conversation and it's not in front of a television that's blaring out all of the constant chatter that's taking over our thoughts, a lot of times we then become cohesive as a group, and we're able to make collective, united choices where we help each other to improve our health by just encouraging one another to do better, to smile more. And as children of one creator, all of us would like to bring a smile to all of everyone else. So if we're only nurturing that which we think we produced, and we're not giving any kind of credit to any of the other hungry entities out there, including nature itself, then perhaps we're too addicted to really look into our own hearts and say, hey, how can I help myself so that I can help others? That's the mission of this channel. I hope that you've enjoyed the Jeep Journals. I hope that you enjoyed this journey enough to subscribe. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. And until next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff.